Well, Ukraine's security agency released a blurred photo of this woman who remains unnamed when they announced that she'd been detained as a suspect who they believed was working as a Russian intelligence officer, so someone who was providing information to Russian authorities regarding the itinerary that Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy had in place when he was visiting Mykolaiv last month. Now, last month we've seen photos of a successful visit. The president visited hospitals and met with people that have been impacted by the war there. However, we now know that there was a foiled assassination plot. So this woman had been providing specific details about where the president was expected to be and when ahead of his visit, and that this information was expected to be used by Russia to make a targeted airstrike on Mykolaiv while he was there. Of course, that never happened. We do know a little bit about the woman. We know that she is believed to have been a salesperson in a military uniform shop in the region. We know that she could face up to 12 years in prison if she's convicted of the charges that she's alleged to have committed.
Yeah, this must be an ever-present danger for Volodymyr Zelenskyy, and officials, of course, say this has happened before.
Yeah, so from the very early days of the war, Volodymyr Zelenskyy himself made it known that he believed that there were hundreds of Wagner mercenaries in Kiev, in the country's capital, that had been given the orders to kill the president given the chance. And so from day dot, Volodymyr Zelenskyy has been facing assassination attempts, and there's been a risk on his life. He's obviously been a very strong figure for Ukraine of defiance and of solidarity in this war. So he's seen as a target for Russia, not just because he's the president, because of what he means to so many people in Ukraine. His aides have said that there have been dozens of assassination attempts that they have foiled, including a number, I think it was about 3 in the first week of this war. So there have been a number of assassination attempts on his life that we know of. I'm sure there are many that we haven't learned about, but Ukraine is continuing to keep intelligence out there and learning and attempting to foil any assassination attempts that are being made.
Yeah. You know, at the beginning of the war, there were efforts to have some sort of negotiated peace, but then those talks stalled for months and months. But there have been some talks recently brokered by Saudi Arabia, and this happened just over the weekend. Is there any sense from that meeting that there is movement towards a negotiated outcome?
So this summit itself was a means of discussing potential future peace talks and trying to provide some sort of infrastructure that they could put in place that these peace talks could go ahead under the agreement of both Russia, Ukraine and the international community. We've heard from China and Germany. They've said that there's been a consensus within the international community that they want this war to come to an end. They don't want war in Ukraine to continue, that there's been general consensus on potential pathways for that to occur, but there haven't been any concrete steps or infrastructure put in place regarding future peace talks. There's been no agreed timeline and no agreed discussion points that everyone has come together and said, yes, this is the outcome that all countries want to see. So that's still a matter of further discussions and further summits like what we've seen take place in Saudi Arabia over the weekend. So some progress in terms of commitments from the wider international community, but no clear path out yet.
Yeah. All this as further attacks from Russia against Ukraine and more deaths.
Yes, just overnight there have been 2 missile strikes in Pokrovsk, which is in the Donetsk region. We've heard that as many as 7 people have been killed so far in those strikes, and there have been more injuries and more people in critical conditions. Now, Russia says that it was targeting a Ukrainian command post. However, Ukrainian forces dispute this. They say that it was a popular hotel and restaurant that were targeted, and that it was civilians and rescuers that were the victims of these latest strikes.
Yeah. Michelle, appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bev.